Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in. I guess Bloomington City Council, they met yesterday, last night, talked about the budget at their council meeting. Proposed spending is decreasing, but here's the bigger picture here, folks. We've got to look at this. 10 years ago, the general fund was a little over $94 million. Now it's ballooned to $186.3 million. This is insane. And here's why. You can just look at Mayor Mboka Mwambwe's candidate page here on Facebook. He talks about, tackling housing and infrastructure. Really? Because if you're tackling housing and infrastructure, why is the homeless crisis in Bloomington where it's at right now? Also, infrastructure. Why is the water situation where it's at right now? Okay, so he talks about Mayor Mboka Mwambwe highlighted key achievements from his first term at the WGLT Candidate Forum, expanding the Bloomington Public Library. I guess that's a highlight. Opening the O'Neill Aquatic Center. Yeah, sure, opening up an aquatic center. Although the city water taste and smells bad, let's just open up an aquatic center and let's expand the library. That was $1 million project as well. Laying the groundwork for the downtown revitalization. This is the downtown Bloomington streetscape, estimated to be $80 million. Okay. So if we were to just take something like that away and some of these fun projects, these are not needs, these are fun projects, like the downtown revitalization project, like the aquatic center. Okay. Is that really necessary? Pool, right? When it's only open like 2 months out of the year. It's Illinois. And then the Bloomington Public Library. This is fun. There was nothing wrong with the library before, and they expanded it. Although I bet, the numbers for visitors probably has decreased over the last 10 years, right? We dumped a bunch of money into it. And you're probably scratching your head, geez, 94 million 10 years ago, and now it's increased. This is beyond inflation, okay? $186.3 million is the general fund. That's what they're dealing with here. And I chuckle every single time I see these kinds of things from Mayor Mboka Mwambwe on his page. Because, you wonder where that $186 million came from. It's because of his leadership and leadership before him, where he had, the Bloomington Public Library expanded and built out the O'Neill Aquatic Center, this downtown revitalization, downtown streetscape with the fancy sidewalks that nobody's going to use anyway. Study after study shows us Americans really don't care too much about the downtown area being nice because they are commuters at heart. Americans are commuters. Naturally, we like to commute. 20 minutes, we're suburb people. That's just the way the American culture is. No matter how much money you spend on these downtown projects, it's not going to make people want to go there anymore. So O'Neill Aquatic Center, that's how it all became to this $186.3 million number from 10 years ago, 94 million. This is not inflation, okay? They're spending like crazy. Now, there was decrease in spending. Proposed spending is decreasing slightly, but look at the history, okay? 10 years ago, $94 million. Today, 186 million. Okay, I want to get to Cody Hendricks. This is a campaign video he put out there, and I just think that this is funny. At least he's taking ownership. I will say that. I'm shocked of how much accountability I hear from him in this video. I'm shocked by that. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
Let's talk water. The current situation that we're facing is entirely unacceptable. As a member of the city council, I take responsibility to try and help get it fixed. But let's talk about what we've done and what we're planning to do. We've brought new filters online. We're activating additional filtration systems with a powder activated carbon. And thank goodness we've recently had some rain, which is going to help to refill the lakes. That being said, we also need to recognize that we didn't focus on infrastructure the way that we should have. 20 years ago, we allowed a filter to come offline, likely as a cost-saving measure, and now we're paying even more for it today. We need to make sure that we maintain our infrastructure day by day and not try to play catch up later on. The last thing I'll say is, while it does taste bad and smell bad, let's be clear, Regardless of what text you may have received, our water is clean and safe, but it is unacceptable the way that it tastes and smells. Let's talk water.
Okay.
The current situation that we're facing.
So that's he's running for mayor, I should say. He's running for mayor and he's a current city councilman, okay? And he talks about that PAC system. I've talked about that here on this program. They use carbon and then they treat the water. 20 years ago, they pulled all of that offline. Being a current city councilman, okay, Mayor Mboka Mwamba, being a current mayor, okay, especially when you've got the mayor, campaigning on tackling housing and infrastructure, okay, that's probably not a point you want to be, an issue you want to be campaigning on there, Mboka. But 20 years ago, they put it off, they took it off all offline, the filtration systems, PAC, treating the water to reduce cost 20 years ago. And I like how he says, I'm taking responsibility as a current city council member. I actually applaud, you'll never hear me say this, that is a tip of my hat to Cody Hendricks, because that was some accountability and I was shocked to see it. But Mayor Mboka, Cody Hendricks, they've been there. So who is, going out, testing the water, making sure that it's all right? Is there checks and balances happening to make sure that that infrastructure is like he said in the video, we should be checking that daily, making sure that our infrastructure is okay and like acceptable. And they've been there for multiple years. Okay. And what? You guys just didn't check to see if the water was okay? Another thing I didn't like in that video is that he didn't talk about, he's talking about their reaction to, the taste and the smell and people complaining about it. And that's adding the filtration system, treating the water with PAC. That's a gut reaction. He didn't talk about in that video, and I don't know if he just didn't get to it. It was a short video. They didn't talk about the long-term solution. The long-term solution is to transition from this lake source water, which is just dated. Not a ton of municipalities. I've actually heard more out west. A lot of people use the lake sourced water, but it's kind of a dated practice. I would say that groundwater wells, digging the wells, this is something that they've studied. The city council has studied, it was decades ago they studied with it, but that study didn't go anywhere to transition from the lake source to a groundwater system. Terry Renner, when he was mayor, he talked about it. And, Mayor Mboka Mwamba in his post here, I'm just going to continue with it. He says 35 years in the community, 14 years of public service. I mean, this has been decades in the making. If you were in public service for 14 years, you should have been a staple in this community that said, hey, let's transition from lake water, and as Cody Hendricks kind of alluded to in his video there, lake water, it's kind of dependent on rainfall. Okay. And we live in Illinois. We know that we have tremendous rainfall. A couple of years ago, we had flooding, right? We had an insane amount of rain. And then, this year, this winter, we didn't have a ton of snowfall. And, I wouldn't say it's drought conditions, but I mean, the lake is just not a sustainable source of water. And nobody's talking about the long-term solution. At least I haven't heard any of the candidates really talking about the long-term solution, which is to dig the dang wells. Dig the dang wells. All right, I want to shift gears. Let's talk a little bit. Well, before I get to this, I found this hilarious, okay? And I love blnnews.com. You guys can go check it out. A couple of weeks ago, author Diane Benjamin, she had published like an opinion piece where she, highlighted some of the extreme radical candidates like Abby Scott. She's running for downtown Bloomington City Council, and a few others. Now, this is hilarious. Mike Matika, I think is his name. He wrote some sort of piece about Bloomington Normal responds when candidates are targeted. It's not in our town. I think this is like a blog, or it's a group of people. It's called Bloomington Normal, not in our town leaders. They responded quickly. Okay. They responded quickly to BLN News marking candidates with the Star of David. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's a red star that she used to mark the radical candidates on your ballot, and she published because she wants you to know that they are radical candidates, because they will go out there, crystal labeled, they will go out there and campaign as if they're slightly left of center. They're not. So she wanted to say, hey, look, these are the candidates, and she marked, a little star by their name. It's a two equilateral triangles, okay, and it's not the Star of David, definitely not. It's not like blue. When I first read the article where she highlights these radical candidates with a star, I did not see the Star of David. But this is hilarious. Mike, he says, vigilance towards hateful signs and symbols is important. Well, number one, the Star of David is not a hateful symbol. Okay. I don't understand. But even if it was, like, she was marking them with the Star of David, which she didn't. I mean, this is like straight up a red star, and it just happens to have the amount of points, and I don't even know how many points. I'd have to think about it, on the Star of David. It just happens to have that many points around the star. And this is what they do with their time, radical leftists. That's what I'm talking about here, Mike. I mean, like, this is what you do with your time. You're so analytical about the star that she used. You're going to jump to this conclusion that she used a Star of David. It's just insane. With the Illinois first municipal elections coming up, the site posted a sample ballot with the Star of David next to the candidates that they don't approve of the site. Rather than ignoring this, Not in Our Town Bloomington issued a public statement condemning this. This is so ridiculous. I laughed out loud when I saw this, because this is what leftists do with their times. They would say that this is anti-Semitic. Definitely not a Star of David. And she, via an updated article, she said, this is where I got the star. It's called the Paint app, and you can, like, use graphics and things like that on the Paint app. And it's not the Star of David that the Paint app is using. She just used a star that was on the app. Okay. So it's just, like, so ridiculous. So this is what he says. He says, rather than ignoring this, Not in Our Town Bloomington Normal issued a public statement condemning this. It was important to do this because tolerating inappropriate symbolic use sends a message that this is acceptable. It's also important to let our Jewish neighbors know that Not in Our Town has their back. Okay, using the Star of David is not necessarily anti-Semitic. Okay, I don't understand, like, how the use of a star that resembles the Star of David is anti-Semitic. The Star of David has no place in local electioneering. BLN news site, they crossed a line using the Jewish Star of David in a recent post. Like, this made me chuckle so hard. I was laughing, like, belly laughing when I read this morning. I was like, these people really have nothing better to do with their lives. Like, this is what happens when you live for politics and you don't have a life outside of politics. Like, you're, like, constantly analyzing little things that you read online, and then you just go on your keyboard, and you're a keyboard warrior, and you just type away. Placing the Star of David is a direct historical tactic to discredit and vilify undesirable candidates. This is unacceptable, and it's a scare tactic. Using the Star of David is not only anti-Semitic, but it's a direct replication of Nazi cruelty. Oh my gosh. Designed to shame and silence voices in our community in solidarity. Human stories are being erased from national park sites, and we have national government that is labeling people unfairly in McLean County. We don't need to join that chorus. I don't know. This is just insanity. I thought you'd get a kick out of it. Just get a glimpse into the leftist mind. The moment they see any kind of star that happens to have, the same amount of points as the Star of David, it's a red star. Number one, traditionally the Star of David is blue, and it's not filled in. It's it's a transparent star, and it's a two equilateral triangles, which this isn't even the Star of David. It looks nothing like it. It's just shocking to me that this is where their mind goes. automatically it's racism, Nazism, just ridiculous. All right, I got to take a quick break. I thought you'd get a kick out of that. I got to get to a few things. The school district, they're forced to settle $20,000 after firing a teacher for not using preferred pronouns of a student. Hilarious. Yeah, maybe you should change your policy then. I doubt that they'll even change their policy after they settled the $20,000. We'll have to see. I want to talk about Kamala Harris because this is really funny. She's a failed Democrat presidential candidate. That feels so good to say. Failed presidential candidate Kamala Harris. She talks about how ordering Doritos from DoorDash is the same thing just like using AI, like a chat GPT or something like that. She is so dumb, like dumber than a rock. I'm sorry. I try to stay away from the name calling as much as I possibly can. This is dumb. So we're going to get to that clip. And then I want to talk about CPS. Their spending per student is insane. They're spending like over near $20,000 per student. And then we're going to compare and contrast this with a private school that is excelling, whereas they are charging tuition for like $9,000 or something like that. So they're spending about $15,000 per student. But they've got way better, like they're doing way better. The graduation rates are insane. The attendance, the rates are great at this Chicago private school. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to compare and contrast here next on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Good morning. Hey, I so do appreciate you being here today. I am jumpy this morning. So go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We're going to be back talking a little bit about this Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. This is a Milwaukee-based law firm that represents conservative interests a lot of the time. They represented and they were working on behalf of a high school teacher, Jordan Cernek. Okay, so this high school teacher wouldn't call the kids by their preferred pronouns, was subsequently kind of fired. His contract wasn't renewed. His teaching contract was declined. So he sued them because this was definitely, disciplinary action that the school district took because he refused to follow the policy to call the students by fake names, essentially names that don't correspond with their sex, and refer to them by their preferred pronouns. And he simply, like the teacher, it's so funny because he tried to not like blatantly go against the policy. Like he wasn't purposefully calling students the wrong pronouns. He tried to just not call them by their pronouns, which is a great meet me in the middle, man. Okay, don't force me. You can't force my speech. Okay, this is why he won. You can't force speech on somebody. This lawsuit and got paid $20,000. You can't force speech on somebody, but also he tried to meet them in the middle. He tried to say, hey, look, I won't call them their preferred pronouns. I just won't call them by any pronouns. I'm going to gesture to them and I'm going to not use their names or their pronouns, and I'm just going to gesture to them. And this workaround did not satisfy the school, and subsequently they didn't renew his contract. So we're going to get to that story. I also want to get to, of course, Kamala Harris. Hilarious. She gave an interview at Human X. This is an AI conference and artificial intelligence conference just a couple of days ago. And this is where she discussed her favorite snack. While watching the Oscars, she DoorDashed Doritos, which just goes to show you how inauthentic this woman actually is. She DoorDashed one bag of Doritos. Like, who the hell does that? Nobody, like anybody who uses DoorDash, everybody knows that you DoorDash like a meal or several meals. If you're DoorDashing groceries, you'll DoorDash a couple of bags of chips, okay? Because it's so expensive and you have to pay a delivery fee. So you're not going to just DoorDash one bag of chips, okay? So this just goes to show you how inauthentic she really is, because she's talking about DoorDashing Doritos. Nobody would actually do that. Number one. Number two, she compares it to like AI and using AI, which is not at all the same thing. I didn't know I had to come out and say that. I don't understand what this woman is thinking. She's expected Americans to take her seriously during the campaign, and she gets out there and says things like this, and she's going to expect Californians to vote for her probably. So she did announce that she's going to be making her decision about California governor by the end of this summer. So we've got that to look forward to. But like I said, I really, really try to shy away. I believe it or not, I try to shy away from the name calling, but it's too hard sometimes, and it's just I don't have the patience to not. Okay, so dumb as a box of rocks, like dumber than a rock. This one. So we're gonna get to the clip because I think you'll get a kick out of it. But then I also want to talk about the Illinois State Board of Education's Illinois report card, Safe Achieve Academy. They specialize in they have special education in the South Shore neighborhood, and they spend more than $130,000 per student. Let me say that again. $130,000 per student in 2024. Okay, this is called Safe Achieve Academy. This is specialized education. Safe Achieve was formerly known as Camelot Safe Academy School. Okay. There's a few schools in the Chicago public school system that are spending more than $100,000 per student. Okay, taxpayers are spending tens of thousands of dollars per student at public high schools. In Chicago, in two schools in the Chicago public school system, they're spending $100,000 per student. This is insane. $100,000. Most cars don't cost that. Some homes don't cost that much. And we're spending that on 4 years of basic education. Okay. And I've said this before, anyone can teach, and they're attacking homeschoolers right now. And I'm just going to, you might not think that you're able to do it, and I don't homeschool children. I don't have the kids to homeschool here. Or I don't have kids to homeschool, but I'm telling you, looking at the numbers, it's possible. Okay. It's possible for you because it costs so much. If we were to just take public schools out of the equation entirely, you would be saving so much money because you're paying $130,000 per student, at least at this South Shore neighborhood school. It's called Safe Achieve Academy. You're spending that per student at that school in 2024. That's insane. There is no private school that has that high of a tuition. Not even a college that has that high of a tuition. Morning. How are you? Good morning. I appreciate you being here. Go ahead, find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Yes, we talked about the water today. We talked about the Bloomington budget just ballooning to $186.3 million. You're probably scratching your head, man, how did it get that high? Just go check out Mayor Mboka Mwambwe's Facebook page. I'll tell you how it got that way. The Bloomington Public Library, the O'Neill Aquatic Center, and the downtown revitalization, the downtown Bloomington streetscape that cost $80 million alone about. At least that's the latest figure I've heard. $60 to $80 million. I've heard plenty of different numbers with that, but it's costing millions, okay? And that's the answer. That's why it's ballooned that much, because we're spending money on things that we don't need. Well, Kat, what is a necessity? I would say it's the water, right? And public safety, housing, making sure that people are not sleeping in the streets, homelessness, right? Making sure that, you're allowing developers to come and develop here in Bloomington, making it affordable to develop here in Bloomington. I can't believe how unaffordable. And I was talking to somebody about, actually, you guys, last week, I was telling you about Peoria High School. Or Peoria Public School Districts, okay, 25 schools in that district. The superintendent is paid $99,000 a year or so, and he's managing 25 schools, over 13,000 students. Then you look over at Barry Riley. Barry Riley hasn't been the superintendent in at least a few years. He's retired, and he's getting a pension of $200,000. And at the time of being superintendent, he only managed like 9 schools. You are getting screwed living in Bloomington. Okay. And the schools aren't that much better. Like, they're not better than Peoria by a significant amount. Okay, it's not like you're paying for the best education. The kids can't read at grade level. Over half of the kids can't read at grade level or do math at grade level. Okay. Chronic absenteeism rate. We're going to get to Chicago public schools because I found these numbers on the Center Square and it was incredible. There are 2 schools in the Chicago public school system where they're spending over $100,000 per student to educate kids for over $100,000. Now, the average Chicago public school to teach a child, it's $19,000 per year. That's the average. There are 2 schools, they're like outliers in this, but this is insane. $100,000 per student to teach this kid, the kids. It's going to cost you that much every single year. That's insane. There is no college that charges that much in tuition, like per year. Tuition costs $20,000 to $40,000, somewhere around there for a semester, right? But there is no college that even charges that much, and these kids are not doing well in these schools that are charging or that are paying $100,000 for their education in just 1 year. So we're going to get to that. I do want to get to this though. First, in America, compelled speech, forced speech is unconstitutional. We have a First Amendment, okay, and this is especially true when you have an entity engaging in this blatant disregard of First Amendment in this is a public school district, okay? And they are blatantly forcing their teachers, or they were at least blatantly forcing this teacher to use pronouns of students, preferred pronouns of students. So the former high school teacher, Jordan Cernak, was just paid $20,000 to settle a lawsuit after refusing to use the students' preferred pronouns. This is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Institute for Law and Liberty is a Milwaukee-based firm. They represent conservative interest a lot of the time. They sued in federal court on behalf of this Argyle high school teacher, Jordan Cernak. Okay, so the teacher said that the district tried forcing him to betray his religious convictions, which was a violation of the First Amendment. He was awarded $20,000. Yay, go Jordan. So our founders believe in religious protections. Okay, First Amendment, you have freedom to practice your religion freely. And it's so crucial. They made the First Amendment. This is the very First Amendment. Okay. So this high school had to learn the hard way that the First Amendment is very important. Okay. So Cernak, the issue began back in 2022. Okay. When the administrators changed the policy and they said that you have to be inclusive of everybody's identities. Other than heterosexual male and female, so you have to call the students by their preferred pronouns. His complaint said to the district initially that he didn't want to use a transgender student preferred pronouns on the grounds of religious objections, but changed its position. Originally, they said that he didn't have to. Okay, so they told Cernak, hey, don't worry about it. Your religious objection applies. Okay, you don't have to call the transgender student by his preferred pronouns. Now, Cernak, they changed that position in 2 months. So after saying, yeah, you have a religious objection, that's okay. They changed that after 2 months. So Cernak began then addressing the students by not their pronouns or their names, and he tried to do kind of a workaround by gesturing to the students, like calling on them but not calling them by name. And they wrote him a letter, and they sent him a letter saying that workaround was not sufficient. And they said refusal to follow this policy is going to result in disciplinary action. And look, in America, you can't do that. Forced speech, that's First Amendment. Okay, you can't force speech on somebody. So a few months later, the district declined to renew his teaching contract. Okay, so they didn't outright fire him. They just didn't renew his teaching contract, but he went to court. He says this, quote, I had to go against my conscience, my religious convictions in order to do what the school was saying. I didn't want to take part in promoting lies to kids or anybody. Yeah, not only is this a blatant disregard for his God-given rights, right, but this is also a lie. Calling a student a girl when he's clearly a boy, that is not something he was willing to do. And yeah, the district believes it's a moral thing to lie to students and children, I guess. But it costed them. Okay, this decision to discipline him, this teacher, it costed them $20,000. So that's pretty awesome. Now, I don't know if the school is going to stop promoting this policy, if they're going to stop abiding by this policy. Hopefully they stop, because lying to students is evil. Okay, if you truly love them, you'd tell them the truth. Okay, if you really actually loved them and cared about them, you'd tell them the truth. Little Timmy, you are not a girl. Okay, that is the best thing that you could do for these kids, and probably save their life, as we know that the transgender suicide rate is just astronomical. I've said this multiple times. They killed themselves at a much higher rate than even those Jewish people did in Auschwitz. Okay, on their way to the gas chamber, they'd kill themselves. It is higher. The suicide rate amongst the trans community is higher than that, which is deeply concerning. And the best thing that you can do for these kids is tell them the truth. Okay, because if you constantly lie to them, it's just going to make it so much worse. So hopefully they don't make the same mistake twice. I hope that they get rid of this policy. They don't follow this policy anymore, because it costed them $20,000 in the end. All right, I got to take a quick break. We're going to get to Kamala Harris, dumber than a rock. This one, she compares ordering Doritos from DoorDash to using AI, like a chat GPT, or using AI. And I just don't, what? I'll be right back. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I love you enough to tell you the truth. Okay, so that's what they should be doing with these kids, is loving them enough to tell them the truth. And if you tell them the truth, you stop the nonsense right away. You stop the lies right away. And you know, they're gonna just be less likely to kill themselves if they don't go down this transgender ideology or transgender, I don't know, phase or whatever. If they don't go down that road, you're going to save their life. If you stop it, if you nip it in the bud, and if you say no, you're not. You're not a boy. You're not a girl. You know, you are a little Timmy. You are a boy. You're not Tammy. Okay. If you stop it, you nip it in the bud, you're going to save that kid's life. I truly do believe that. Lying to them and affirming this lie is what leads them down a path of truly believing that they're transgender, and having this gender dysphoria and this internal struggle with themselves for the rest of their life, and they ultimately wind up killing themselves. Statistically, that is the path that will happen even after they transition, post-op, pre-op, if they go as far as to, you know, change themselves physically. The suicide rates are the same. So the best way and the only way to save these kids' lives is to tell them they're not trans. Okay, that's it. We're going to get to Kamala Harris. The fake PR videos with the Doritos, I mean, they thought that was going to send Kamala Harris, you know, to the White House and get her, you know, to the ballot box, make her all the way, make it. They thought that would work. Okay, the PR videos of her with the Doritos and buying Doritos because, oh, she's authentic. She's just like you. She couldn't be anything. She is not like you in any sense of the word. She is not. I wouldn't even say that she has remotely any kind of experience that you've ever had. I don't think she's ever had a true American experience. And you know, people say she's middle class. We've proven that wrong multiple times. Her parents both, one of them was an Ivy League professor, the other one was a cancer researcher in Canada, doing very well. Her mother, you know, who raised her, and you know, the father didn't leave him hanging out high and dry. There was a settlement. I think it was comparable in today's dollars. It'd be like $100,000 or something like that. I don't know about you, but you know, having a big old fat check, you know, in your childhood for $100,000 probably means you're not middle class. Okay. So the father cut them a check, you know, settlement out of the divorce. And it's comparable in today's dollars. It was like $100,000 or something like that back then. So, I mean, and then she had like close to a $60,000, $70,000 job And then also the excuse me, the Ivy League professor, the father, didn't leave them hanging dry. He was also making tons of money at the time. In fact, Kamala Harris, she is the descendant of a very wealthy slave owner. So there you have it. Very, very wealthy family. Not middle class. That's a lie. Okay, so also don't understand why she's like promoting these snacks. A lot of Americans, I'm going to be honest with you, I would say, I don't know. I would say a lot of it's unfortunate actually. Every single time I go into the grocery store, I see a lot of these like very unhealthy snacks in people's grocery cart, and I just shake my head. It's like, but most I would say it's like 60-40. I would say 60-40%. 60% of Americans understand that Doritos and Ho-Hos and oatmeal cream pies, Little Debbie's, all that stuff is junk for you. And I would say that you don't eat those regularly, okay? And trying to pretend like you eat these snacks regularly because, you're just like the Americans, right? You're just like America. And you're just like your constituency. No, even your constituency doesn't eat snacks like that all the time, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about Kamala Harris. She's just not a serious person. She is considering a run for California. She said that she's going to officially make the announcement at the end of summer. And then we'll get to Chicago Public Schools because this is actually kind of crazy how much money they're spending per student. I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Go ahead and subscribe today. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. So I do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. I do want to get to this really quick. I saw this and my jaw dropped. Like hit the floor. I couldn't believe what they're introducing, the Democrats. So State House Democrats, they have introduced bills now that seek to allow sex offenders to move closer to schools and daycares. Yes, this is actually what they've introduced. I just can't believe it. They want the sex offenders to get closer to schools, daycares, playgrounds, and make it so homeless sex offenders don't have to register weekly. This is a bill that has been introduced, sponsored by Kimberly Lightford. She's a Democrat. There's also several other bills. The Illinois Sheriff's Association is against that one. We're going to get to some of those here a little bit later in the show. But first, I do want to talk about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, boy, she was. She's got all these PR interviews through the campaign. You guys remember where she was buying Doritos at the gas station, and they thought that these fake, inauthentic PR videos were going to, get her to the White House. The exact opposite actually proved true. Okay, I think it did. It did not do her any favors. Those PR videos. Okay, so her stunt with the nacho cheese chips should have ended where it started, okay? But she's decided to triple down on this, and she talks about Doritos here at this Human X conference. This is an AI, artificial intelligence conference, and she starts talking about Doritos and how buying her favorite snack from DoorDash, she bought it to watch the Oscars, I guess, because people watch I don't know anybody who watches the Oscars. I didn't watch it. Did you watch it? 309-451-9299. I don't know anybody who's ever watched like the Oscars in the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years. They're largely irrelevant. I saw clips, but that's all I really care about. Even then, I didn't. I don't care about the Oscars. So totally inauthentic. She thinks that she's being relatable by buying her favorite snack from DoorDash. Take a listen here.
So we did DoorDash because I wanted Doritos. And the red carpet part was about to start. Nobody wanted to leave to go to the grocery store. So it was DoorDash. And I'm thinking about this, so I was willing to give up whatever might be the trackings of Kamala Harris's particular fondness for nacho cheese Doritos for the sake of getting a big bag of Doritos as I watched the Oscars.
That's the consumer behavior.
And that's right, but here's the thing. At what point do we also uplift and highlight the consumer's right to also expect, and you can debate with me if it should be a right, I think it should, to expect that the innovation would also be weighted in terms of solving their everyday problems, which are beyond my craving for Doritos, but about whatever, and I know the work is happening around, the scientific discoveries, for example, to cure long-standing diseases. But I'm going to throw out another one. And you all, again, please get back to me any information you have. I would love it if there would be an investment of resources in solving the affordable housing issue in America.
What?
Like, help me with that. Help me with that. I don't know that any big VCs are going to fund it because they're going to have to figure out where the money is in that. But I'm telling you, it would really be helpful. And I bring up then the consumer because I wonder how much of the trajectory of it all, the innovation, is being fueled by what the consumer not only desires in terms of, again, and I'm simplifying it obviously, my craving for a certain brand of potato chip, it's corn chip, but what part of it is about getting enough information in front of the consumer to know these other really big problems you're dealing with might also be solved by this technology. And if you demand it, if we agree that the business model is based on consumer demand, that there might actually be more resources going into some of those things.
Oh, my brain is hurting. Ow, ow, my head is throbbing. Number one, everything is a laughing matter to her. She cackles like through most of that, and this woman is not to be taken seriously. She doesn't take herself seriously, which is why she cackles all the time. Unclear how tackling what she means by Doritos could tackle innovation in the future. Okay. I really don't understand what she was trying to get at here. We're going to try to break it down as much as possible here next. I've got my Kamala Harris translator up and running. So we're going to be back translating what Kamala Harris said in that video at the Human X AI conference. I'll be right back. You're listening to Cities 92.9. Okay. Don't understand at all what was going on really there in this video. She laughed through a lot of it, and it's unclear what she means by how Doritos and her DoorDashing Doritos could tackle innovation in the future. But I don't think she really knows what she was talking about either. So I'm not alone. At least we know that Kamala Harris probably didn't know what she was talking about. I don't know what she was talking about. She just said things that came to her empty head. I really do believe that. Now, does she realize that most Americans don't DoorDash a single bag of Doritos? Here she's trying to be relatable. She did this all throughout the 2024 campaign. She's trying to relate to you and I. She thinks that you and I eat Doritos on a regular basis and that we're just Dorito eating Americans, okay? And she simplified us to that. Okay, so she's trying to relate to us, and she thinks that that's who we are. Americans would never DoorDash a single bag of Doritos. Why? Because the delivery fee is too much. Why would we DoorDash just one bag of Doritos? No, we're going to DoorDash an entire grocery chip probably because it's more cost effective. But this is how out of touch she is. She thinks her love for nacho cheese flavored chips is what makes her relatable to the American people, and it's an insult, frankly. So I don't know how she jumps from her favorite snack choice, door dashing her favorite snack choice, to solving the affordable housing crisis. But it's astonishing to watch. Um, I, I I really am trying to understand. So I guess what she's trying to say here is DoorDash, it's such a cool invention, right? Although DoorDash has been around for how many years? I mean, at this point, it's not like anything new. Hang on. I'm really curious now how old DoorDash is. It's at least 18 years old, okay? So this is like almost, it's been around for almost an entire generation, okay? Oh, no, not 18 years. Hold on, you have to be 18 year old. How old or how long? You have to be 18 years old. I thought that didn't sound right. Okay, 2012. Okay, so it was founded in 2012. 12, almost 18 years. I'd say, was it 12 years? 13 years. It's been around 13 years. And I'm sorry, I messed up. I'm willing to say I messed up. I said 18 years. Really quick, I put DoorDash how old, and it said 18 years old to be a DoorDash driver. Now, it was founded in October 2012, celebrated its 10th anniversary in 2023. This is not like new by any means. So she this is like a false premise to begin with. She talks about the DoorDash and the innovation there, and she compares it to how we should innovate, I guess, with affordable housing and AI and being. Here's the thing about affordable housing. Work with the developers. These developers in Illinois specifically are treated like dog crap. Okay, landlords, people who have at least small landlords. Okay, now BlackRock. Okay, and these big global investment companies, they are treated very well. Obviously, by Governor J.B. Pritzker. Why? Because he is constantly thanking them. And giving them favors because they donate to the Tides Foundation, which is largely backed by himself, Pritzker, and George Soros and the Pritzker family. Okay, and BlackRock is a big investor of the Tides Foundation. The Tides Foundation, and they in turn, fund all of these radical leftist causes like the Adala Justice Project. Multiple of these radical leftist causes and organizations. And Governor J.B. Pritzker, is nice to them, the BlackRock landlords, okay, in these big apartment complexes. But when it comes down to it, affordable housing is pretty easy. You just have to meet the demand with the supply, okay? So if there's no supply and the demand is high, the prices are going to go up. Okay, now what you need to do is supply a lot of housing and houses that people want, and not crappy houses that are unaffordable like the ones that BlackRock or these global investment corporations make. That's why the Democrats are all like pro affordable housing, because they want to provide favors for BlackRock for them to make money, or companies like BlackRock. Yes, we're unpacking what Kamala Harris had said here. Number one, I don't think any American has ever DoorDashed a single bag of Doritos. She talks about how she DoorDashed a bag of Doritos for her watch party of the Oscars. Okay, number one, nobody DoorDashes a single bag of Doritos. Number two, nobody watches the Oscars. She really tries to be relatable here. She thinks that her love for cheese flavored chips makes her relatable. And I don't know why she's doubling down on this, because clearly it didn't work. They thought that these fake PR videos trying to make Kamala Harris seem like a nacho cheese eating American, they thought that that was going to get her all the way to the ballot box and get her to the White House, but that didn't prove to be true. So I don't know why she's doubling down, tripling down on this. And then she compares her favorite snack to like innovation, affordable housing. And I don't know how she gets there, to be honest with you. And I don't think she really knows how she was able to uh, draw this comparison to her ordering Doritos to, inventing and innovation and creating affordable housing. The affordable housing thing is very, very simple. uh, these small landlords, the individuals who actually care about you, not BlackRock, not these big investment companies, global investment companies that want to build these skyscrapers of apartment buildings, but landlords or developers who want to build single family homes, because that's what Americans want. They want the suburb life. They want the single family homes. Building houses that people actually want, number one, is going to solve the affordable housing. And you need supply, but supply that people want. Cutting deals with your friends over at BlackRock to create these skyscraper multifamily housing units, that is not going to solve anything, because people don't want those. People have children. Okay, in America, believe it or not, okay, two kids is about the average, right? 2.5 kids. People want the 2.5 kids. You can't cram on 2 kids and a mom and dad in a multifamily house. Okay, so that's not the answer. Rubbing elbows with your buddies at BlackRock and creating all of these multifamily houses is not the answer. The answer is working with our developers, the good guys, the small landlords, the small-time property owners of these developers, and working with them so they can build houses that people actually want, and create a housing market that people actually will participate in. Okay, so that's the answer. Democrats, they want to build these big skyscrapers or these multifamily houses with BlackRock. Why? Because BlackRock and other global investment companies, they donate to their extreme radical causes, and they funnel money and they pay all of their friends through these foundations like the Tide Foundation. BlackRock is a big donor of the Tides Foundation, and the Tides Foundation is connected to George Soros and largely backed by the Pritzker family. And, that's what they want. And, when they say affordable housing, they want the skyscraper multifamily housing that you don't want because you have 2 kids. Okay. And you can't cram them into a shoebox. And then they're going to do everything they can to demonize your small landlords or your private developers who want to create single family housing. And it's really, really tragic. And I don't know how she jumps from Doritos to affordable housing, the affordable housing crisis. That's astonishing. Her snack of choice to solving the affordable housing crisis. Don't know how she gets there. The fact that this woman was wanting to be the most powerful person in the world is a scandal in itself. She's inauthentic. She's not relatable. She failed miserably in 2024. And I can't believe that she actually wanted to be president. Uh, like she actually thought she could be. Now, she is putting in her name possibly by the end of summer. She's supposed to make this decision for California governor. She's made it clear that she's, quote, staying in this fight. It's unofficial, but I think that she's going to be running for governor. And I think that that's arrogant to be running for California governor when you lost so terribly for president, for the presidency. And she's just so unlikable. I just think that it's just so arrogant to throw your name in the running for California governor. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Woo! Hey, welcome to the Red Kingdom. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. It's Tuesday. Coming up in about 30 minutes, we're going to be talking with Rick Johnson from Tax and Accounting Plus for your Tax Tip Tuesday. It's tax season. So go ahead and shoot me some questions for Rick Johnson if you've got questions about your tax return, how to do them. He's going to be the guy to ask. He lives and breathes taxes, folks. So 309-451-9299. You can ask a question for Rick on that text line. I'm going to be joining, or he's going to be joining me at 7:30. Now, before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about these Illinois laws proposed by Illinois Democrats. This is really kind of crazy. The Illinois Sheriff's Association has opposed all of these. Take a listen to this. State Representative Lisa Davis, a Democrat, she wants to make it legal to attack police if you're appearing to have a mental episode or like a mental health episode. I'd imagine the origins of this bill come from Sonia Massey. So you guys remember that, and I've walked you through the footage here where she had a pot of boiling water. People don't know that, and she appeared to be using that as a weapon against the officer, which is considered a deadly weapon, a pot of boiling water. If she were to throw this at the officer, it would have incapacitated him and possibly led to further destruction of the community and safety concerns for the community. So his response was, of course, to shoot her. Okay, now, guy was a total jackwagon, totally lacked professional conduct. Lacking professional conduct and shooting somebody for no reason is totally different. Okay, he lacked professional conduct. I will say that in the video, he cusses a lot of the time. He could have taken more steps to de-escalate the situation. But she had this pot of boiling water, and she made it pretty clear, even in the video, you could see that she was not letting this go. This pot of boiling water, and she was on her way to throw it at him when he shot. Okay, you can see where she picks it up and the water sprays all over the kitchen. I'd imagine this is where the origins of the bill come from. This happened in Sangamon County. Yeah, Sangamon County. Sonia Massey. I'd imagine that's where the origins of this bill come from. She was having a mental health episode, 100%. She was talking about demons and spirits and things like that, and she was talking about, yes, this is clearly somebody having a mental health episode, but they want to make it legal for you to attack police officers if you're having a mental health episode. Okay, which is just ridiculous. Another thing Democrats are doing, they're legalizing prostitution. Okay. There's only one other state that has done this. So Illinois would be, I believe, the second state to do this. Whether you're employed, contracted, self-employed, they want to legalize prostitution, which is just insanity to me. Do they realize? So prostitution kills most transgender people. I tell you guys this all the time. Transgender people, for some odd reason, the trans community goes towards this. I guess it's an occupation. I don't even want to give it validity. It's not an occupation. It's illegal activity. So the trans community flocks and gravitates towards this illegal activity, prostitution currently. And most of the time, I think it was like 30 homicides transgender community saw in 2023, something like that, somewhere around 30. And most of those deaths were caused by pimps, killing them. And it's a very dangerous activity. And that's probably why it's illegal. A lot of times in prostitution, in order to get people to work for you, you drug them up. That's a big part of prostitution. So this is just disgusting. But this is what Democrats are focusing on. They want to make it to where you can attack cops, even though you're having if you have a mental episode and you're attacking cops, they want to make that legal. They also want to legalize prostitution. They're reducing murder charges from first-degree murder to second-degree murder if someone is killed during an act and that causes somebody to die. Okay, so typically that would be first-degree murder. So for example, say a person gets into a heated argument with another person, okay, and in the heat of the moment, they punch them and that causes a fatal injury. Like you punch them in the face and they fall down to the ground and that action resulted in their death. Okay, now typically, you could charge someone with first-degree murder for that kind of stuff, but they want to get it down to second-degree murder for that. Okay, here in the state of Illinois, they want to charge them with second-degree murder rather than first-degree murder. And this is just ridiculous. Like, the action kills the person. This is like you kill the person because you were in the heat of the moment and you hit them, and they charge them with first-degree murder, and they want to reduce murder charges from first-degree murder to second-degree murder. Okay, so there's also another big one. The Illinois Sheriff's Association, like I said, they oppose all of these. This one allows sex offenders to move closer to schools. You can't make this stuff up. Move closer to schools, daycares, playgrounds, and they want to make it to where homeless sex offenders don't have to register weekly. This is introduced by Kimberly Lightford. This is ridiculous. I mean, you can make this stuff up. I wouldn't want to, okay? This is just so scandalous that this is what your Democrat lawmakers are dedicating their time to during legislative session this year. They are trying to make it legal to attack police officers. They're trying to legalize prostitution. They're trying to make it easier for murderers to get off. I mean, this is just insanity. I do want to get to this story, shifting gears a little bit here. Taxpayers were spending tens of thousands of dollars per student in public schools in Chicago. In two schools, according to the Center Square, the amount that they're paying per student, okay, with taxpayer dollars, over $100,000. So there's two schools in CPS that pay over $100,000 per student for those students to get an education every single year. So per year per student, okay. So Leo Catholic School, though, okay, this is a private school, high school on the city's south side. Meanwhile, they're achieving 100% graduation rates over the last decade at a fraction of the cost. Okay, so CPS might be spending $100,000 plus on each student, but guess what? None of them are graduating. A lot of them aren't coming to school. And then you look over at the private school, and they're doing it at a fraction of the cost, like $9,000 is their tuition. And they're seeing results. So according to the Illinois State Board of Education's Illinois report card, Safe Achieve Academy, this is a specialized education school on the South Shore neighborhood, they're spending $130,000 per student in 2024. They spent $130,000 per student in 2024. That is ridiculous. College, okay, tuition is not that high per semester. It's like $20,000 or something like that for ISU. At least that's about what I paid when I was going to college. Like, college education is not even that high, okay? And Safe Achieve Academy was formerly known as Camelot Safe Academy School, Simpson Academy High School for young women. They spend just over $100,000 per student. Simpson, they specialize in educating pregnant and parenting teens, so teenage pregnancies. They specialize in that in young mothers. So yes, it's going to probably be a little bit more than your average, which is at CPS, the average cost per student to educate a child is about $19,000. So, I mean, if you're providing pregnancy resources and if you're providing parenting classes, yeah, sure, that's going to be a little bit more. Not 100,000 flipping dollars, okay, per student. And I get it. The school is, they're doing on-site childcare and things like that. But this is a lot of money to be providing a student for their education, even if that includes, childcare and other services. Douglas Academy High School on the west side spent $93,000 per student. Now, that's a public school. They didn't exceed the $100,000 number, but that's pretty dang close to $100,000, $93,000 per student. Douglas has about 35 students enrolled, and the chronic absenteeism rate is 62%. So you're spending $93,000 per student. The kids aren't even showing up, okay, to school. According to the Illinois report card, Chicago Public School has enrolled as an overall chronic absenteeism rate of 40.8% in 2024. Okay, so chronic absenteeism rate for CPS teachers was also reported at around 40% last year. So the kids aren't showing up, the students aren't showing up. Yeah, we're spending over $100,000 on some of these students. It's insane for them to get an education. Chicago Public Schools, like I said, their average spend per student. Now, those were outliers, the $93,000, the $100,000 per student, and then the $130,000 per student. Those are like kind of outliers. The average here is $19,908 per student in taxpayer funds. That's what you pay for a kid to get educated at through CPS, okay? Now, Wire Point's Ted Dabrowski, and this is according to Center Square, said the dollar numbers will likely rise because CPS and the Chicago Teachers Union will agree to a new contract, and the teachers are going to try to get a 9% annual raise or a 12% annual raise. The teachers get paid enough, okay? Even in normal, even in District 87. And I know that's controversial to say, folks, but they're getting paid enough. When you calculate their salary, it's on average the same as what Illinoisans are getting. Your average Illinoisan in the private sector, once you calculate the time off that the teachers get, they're getting about the same as the average Illinoisan. Okay. And I hate to say this, and I know people are going to scream at the sky when I say this. Anyone can teach. You don't need a degree to do it. Why? How do I know that? Well, Kat, that's a controversial statement to say. It doesn't take somebody with a specialized degree to teach. Well, how do you know that, Kat? Because I do it all the dang time. You do it all the dang time in your job, okay? Because you're training people at your job every single day. Your boss comes to you, hey, can you train Jeff on this job, right? And you're going to have to teach Jeff how to do this job. You do it all the time and you don't have a degree to teach. Okay. So teachers, they're fighting for 12% increases at CPS, although there's a chronic absenteeism rate of 40% for teachers. The teachers aren't even showing up. They're absent all the time and they're wanting 12% raise. CPS and CTU have been without contracts since June 30th. Dabrowski says this in the Center Square quote, "It's so expensive. Again, ordinary everyday Illinoisans and Chicagoans are going to have to pay for this. It just becomes too much and it's just not fair." That's what Dabrowski says. Now, this is really interesting. We're going to contrast this now, CPS, with a Chicago public or a Chicago private school. Now, this is a really cool school in that this is in Auburn Gresham neighborhood. I have no idea really where that is. But it's a neighborhood in Chicago, and it's a Leo. That's what this is called, Leo School, Leo High School. Hang on, let me get the full name here, so that way you have it. It's a Leo Catholic High School, okay? Private school. They've reported 100% graduation since 2012, okay? And I don't really like graduation rates because you can just pass them just because, and that's what a lot of people, Governor J.B. Pritzker, he loves to tout the graduation rate, and at this point in public schools, we're just graduating students who shouldn't be graduating. Kat, how do you know that? When I went to ISU, there was literally a girl in journalism school who couldn't read, okay, straight up. I'm not lying about that. She could not read at all, okay? And she was a sophomore in college in journalism school, okay, in communication, in the School of Communication. So this school, Leo Catholic School, they reported 100% graduation rate since 2012. I'm not really impressed by that. Here's what I am impressed by. The school's attendance rate has risen from 91% in 2021 to 96% last year. So this is getting kids to get to school, especially post-pandemic, is tough, and they're increasing their absenteeism rate. They're making sure their attendance rate is increasing in a post-pandemic world. So Principal Shaka Rawls, she said, it isn't necessarily a secret formula. She just says education systems, school systems, they have to be nimble enough to meet the needs of their individual students, yet structured enough in order to prepare kids for post-secondary success. This is what she told Center Square. And now get this, here's the numbers, okay, with Leo. $9,300. That is a fraction of the cost. I told you the average cost per student at CPS is $19,000. A fraction of that cost. Some of them are getting paid, or some of the students are getting $100,000 per year to be educated. Tuition at Leo is $9,300 per year, and the school offers $3,000 incentives to parents who perform as volunteers and do volunteer duties. This is insane. This is so cool. And the principal here says that it's about $15,000 to educate a student at Leo, which is interesting because they aren't charging that much in tuition. So they're, financially they're financially going about this in a conservative way. They're charging $9,300 per year in tuition, but it costs about $15,000 to educate a child. So we're gonna take a quick break. I gotta take a quick break, but we're gonna wrap this story up here in just a second, and then I'm gonna get to. I do want to get to Van Jones on CNN. He doesn't have an answer as to why the Democrats are so terrible lately, and the clip is pretty funny. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Hey, what's new, Kat? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, I'll tell you what's new. Well, not really new. CPS, they are a couple of schools, they're charging you, the taxpayer, $100,000 plus. So there's one school that does $100,000 per student to educate a kid in 2024, and then $130,000 per student, and then $93,000 per student. This is insane. And then you compare that to this private school. It's Leo Catholic High School. It costs about $15,200 to educate a student at Leo. Now, philanthropic organizations, including Big Shoulders Fund, they've stepped up to cover some of the cost, okay, because they only charge $9,300 per year in tuition. And then the school offers, on top of that, a $3,000 incentive to parents who perform volunteer duties. This isn't a great model. Here's what the principal had said to the Center Square. They don't disinvolve the parents. We involve the community, and you'll find dozens of organizations that partner with us. You'll find dozens upon dozens of parents that partner with us. We believe in this kind of holistic approach that it takes not only our churches and faith-based organizations, but also community-based organizations to help us out, to educate these kids. And their goal is to grow students who come in at or below grade level, and get them to a place where they've grown. Okay, so in terms of growth, we're one of the leading schools in the Catholic League in terms of what we're able to do. And we have a variety of students who come in far below grade level, and our goal is to get them above grade level. Now, most of the schools, even here at District D7, Unit 5, they're reading below grade level. They're not reading at grade level. They're not doing math at grade level. Okay, so here's what the principal says. Our job is to help them reach their full potential academically. Not every student comes out of Leo will be an academic all-star. Okay, but we also want students to have the self-confidence. We have those, academic all-stars, but we also have students who come out with self-confidence and are positive young African-American men, which we think is just as successful as scoring a 25 or a 27 on the ACT. Many Illinois schools have faced criticism for lowering standards. Like I said, they'll lower the standards for graduation and they'll just pass them out of there. Governor J.B. Pritzker touts the graduation rates all the time. But the principal over at Leo Catholic School said that they haven't eased any kind of requirements. They said, look, you have to play the game. Okay, so here's what she says. Once we teach young men the rules of the game, they'll be successful. I think that in life, right, you have these large bureaucratic structures that inhibit your success, and you have to deal with those. So these requirements are there to kind of give the child the necessary building blocks that they need in post-secondary or out of their educational career. And they want to meet the individual child's needs inside the building. And she said that's the secret sauce, is to individualize their education. And that's the numbers here are just astonishing, because you've got $100,000 per year per student. Okay. That's what it cost in CPS. Okay. Now the average is $19,908 per student in taxpayer funds. But there's schools that are doing $100,000 per student, $93,000 per student. And then you've got $130,000 per student. That's insane. And, here's this school, they're charging $9,300 for tuition. It takes them about $15,000 to educate the kids. And then, to make up the difference, they reach out and they, do a holistic approach where the community-based organizations step in to to cover the costs. Okay. So I wanted to compare and contrast that because the numbers just raised my eyebrows. I'm sure they're raising yours as well. Let's get to Tax and Accounting Plus. Rick Johnson, he lives and breathes taxes, folks. It's Tax Tip Tuesday. Rick Johnson, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Oh, thank you, Kat. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, we've got so much to cover. What's our first topic there, Rick Johnson?
Retirement savings credit. Like I said, how I like credit, so I always try to get one of them or two of those in. So, but the retirement, actually our government wants to encourage us to save. Okay. And believe it or not, if you put some money away for savings and you qualify, they will give you money to save money. Okay, and that's the retirement savings credit. Depending on your income, everything always depends on your income. The credit amount that you can get back for putting money into a retirement, which is like an IRA or 401k, et cetera, right? You can get back 10%, 20%, or 50%. All right. Now, the categories for those are subject to the income levels. I'll go through those real quick here in a second. But the maximum contribution you can put in and apply those percentages to is $2,000, okay, per individual. So if you're married, you can put in two each. So that'd be $4,000. If you're in the 50% bracket, put in $4,000, you get a $2,000 credit on your tax return. Okay. So it's worth doing for sure. All right. So, and I'm old school. I believe when you put money into the retirement or your account, whatever, you got to leave it alone and let it be there for what you want it to be there. And that's part of the reason why the government's encouraging you to do that, because they're probably concerned, maybe more than you are, that certain retirement things like Social Security may not be around forever. So you got to take care of yourself first. All right. So the way that this works is the income limitations for the 50% rule is if you're married filing joint, you can make up to $46,000. Head of household 34.5, and single and married filing separate and qualifying widower is 23,000. If you're within that level, you can take 50% of the amount that you put in up to $2,000. Okay, 20% is up from 46 to 50 for married filing joint, 34.5 to 37.5, and for head of household, and 23 to 25. Last one is the 10%, 50,000 to 76.5 for married, 76.5 for married filing joint, 37.5 to 57,375 for head of household, and single 25.1 up to 38,250. Now, if you're over that for married filing joint, if you're over the 76.5, it goes down to zero. You don't get it. Over 57,375 for head of household, it goes away. And single qualifying widower and married filing separate is over 38,250. Okay, then no retirement credit. But be aware of it. Take advantage of it because it's free money coming back. Okay. Mm-hmm. There is one caveat, one catch to this is the prior 3 years. So in 24, if you're going to put some money into it and try to get this retirement savings credit, if you had taken any money out of a retirement account in 21, 22, 23, the prior 3 years, then you have to subtract that off of your contribution amount. So if you put in $2,000 in 24 and you think you qualify for that credit, but in 21 you took out $1,000 for whatever reason, you now have to subtract that $1,000 off of the $2,000. So therefore, you only have $1,000 available for the credit. Okay. Any questions, Kat?
I don't think so. No, and a lot of people, and this is just what I've heard. When you're doing retirement savings, a lot of Illinoisans might be qualified for those credits. So from what I understand, if they're enrolled in this secure choice program, which is the automatic, like unless you opt out, a lot of Illinoisans are automatically already saving. You might not even know it. Some people I've talked to, they're like, oh, I guess I have a retirement savings account in my name. The government did it for me already. And that's the secure choice program. And that is also, that qualifies you as well, that program. So it's whether it's the secure choice program, a Roth RIA, or 401k, anything like that, all of it, right? It's, you can use all of that for the credit, correct? It's just retirement if you're saving for retirement.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So the next topic we've got is the changes to benefits for dependents. So if I'm claiming dependent, there's changes to the benefits. Are they better? Please tell me they changed for the good.
They're not better because they don't exist. If you remember back in 18 when they overhauled the tax rules and tax law, it was the biggest change in 3 decades. I had mentioned this in last week, but if the point of this that people don't realize is when they were taking their exemptions before 2018, and they would take it for their children, they would take it for themselves, their spouse, etc., because there was an amount to do that back then. But there was 6 tests tests to take those exemptions, and one of those tests was called the gross income test. And the gross income test said, hey, if, and this is just basic, but if your child makes this much money in this year, you cannot claim them for an exemption. There's always exceptions to things, but that's the basic idea. Okay, well, since that's changed, we never had to worry about it, so people have kind of just forgotten about it. But your exemptions or your dependents, you can still use them for other things, like a head of household status, if you to help make you head of household, or for family purposes to claim qualifying credit or qualifying relative for family credit. All right. At that point in time, that gross income test still counts, and people are not aware of that. And for I just want to bring that up, that for 2024, that amount is $5,050, and for 25, it's going up to 52. So if you're, for example, if you want to take your child and use your child to take the head of household status, because sometimes people get confused with that. Head of household is not just being the head of your household. You have to be the head of household of somebody. Okay. But if that somebody makes over $5,050 in 24, then you won't be able to use them for your head of household status.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So it kind of the changes doesn't necessarily mean you won't benefit from it, because you could benefit from it, even if they're not technically, I guess, a dependent. Am I kind of
Yeah, well, you used to get like a $4,000 deduction for each dependent, including or your personal exemption, including yourself and your spouses. That just went away. They raised up the amounts you could get for a standard deduction to help compensate for that. But some people it helped, some people it didn't.
all right? And then the last topic, March 17th. This is the due date for taxes.
Are you thinking, Rick, you're nuts or what? It's March 17th. It can't be March 17th.
Yeah, that's so quick. Is that faster than like normal? I feel like that came up quick.
Yes, it's actually April 15th. But what happens is it's March 17th, because if the due date is the 15th and that falls on a holiday or a weekend, it goes to the next business day. Well, March 15th this year falls on a Saturday, so we have until Monday, March 17th. And what that is the due date for, and I just wanted to remind everybody, is that's for what they call flow-through entities, basically S corporations and LLCs. Those business returns, you don't pay the income at the corporate level. It comes down to the individual on a form called K1. Okay, so you want to get that K1 as soon as possible for your individual return, so you can file your individual return. Well, so it used to be that those types of entities or those type of returns were due the same time as your individual return. But a few years back, they changed it to put it in March, so that gave people a little more time to get their K1 and file their personal returns. So the due date for S corporations and LLCs is March 17th this year. And if for some reason, which is coming up, it's a week from yesterday, if you're not going to get that return filed on time, if you're doing it or if you're having someone do it for you, just as a reminder, make sure you file an extension, okay? Because the penalties for filing late on those entities are quite substantial.
Yep, and file them for you. That's Tax and Accounting Plus. You shouldn't have anybody else filing them, because these guys are the experts, and clearly he knows everything there is about taxes, folks. So you need to give him a call and just ask him questions. I can say that, right, Rick?
Yes. Except maybe not ask me in this next week.
Yeah, I'd imagine you're crazy busy. What's the phone number there?
It's 309-827-4010, or you can go on our website at taxandaccountingplus.com and you can pose a question there and we'll answer from there. And we are at 501 North Clinton in Bloomington, Illinois.
And folks, you especially if that due date's coming up and you've got the LLC, you're gonna need to get somebody to take a peek at your taxes. So have Tax and Accounting Plus do it. I highly recommend. Okay, Rick Johnson, thanks so much for joining me here on Tax Tip Tuesday. We're going to do another installment next week, folks. All right, you have a great day, Rick.
All right, thank you, Kat.
We'll be right back. You're listening to Cities 92.9. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Van Jones, he went on CNN over the weekend and he said the quiet part out loud, which is that Democrats are screwed. Take a listen.
Just lastly, Van, in terms of Democrats and where they go from here, this last week we did see them some people try to protest during the president's address, and then House leadership getting on to them, other Democrats calling them out. They still seem to be wandering around trying to figure this out. What's your take?
Can we ask another question? Do I have to talk about my own party? Can we talk about Ukraine or something? No. Look, man, we're screwed. I mean, we don't know. No, Democrats don't know what to do. This is a nightmare. Somebody like Donald Trump, we thought we'd at least have Hakeem Jeffries in the speaker's chair to hold him back if we didn't have Kamala in there to do the right thing. Listen, the Democratic Party is going through a massive set of internal crises. You have a party that got trapped two ways. One, defending a broken status quo that nobody likes because they thought that Donald Trump was going to make it worse. But when you're defending the status quo, you're going to lose. And then offending most people in the country, calling everybody sexist and racist and transphobic and every other name, and then saying, please follow us. That's not a good strategy, folks. Defending a broken status quo and offending most of the country turns out is not as popular as my party thought it was going to be. And so it's going to take a while for people to get it figured out. I don't like talking about this. I'd rather be beat up. Can you give me something I can beat up Shermichael about? I don't want to talk about my own party.
I know. It's a tough question.
It's a tough question, yeah. It turns out slandering half the country as racist and misogynistic, that doesn't actually win elections. And the Democrats have to accept that. And they're so deeply blinded by their hatred towards Donald Trump that they're never going to accept it, I don't think. So we're going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Yeah, folks, I mean, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Van Jones, he went on CNN, he said the quiet part out loud there. He says, look, man, we're screwed. I mean, Democrats don't know what to do. It's a nightmare. And he said that there's a lot of internal crises. You have one side defending a broken status quo. And I've talked about this before. You've got your Nancy Pelosi's, you've got your Barack Obama. This is the good old boys, okay? And Bernie Sanders is a part of that group as well. Check out his pharma donors. You've got that section of the Democrat Party, but then you've also got this weird socialist globalist section where it's the AOC's, Jasmine Crockett. Now they're the mouthpieces, they're the useful idiots. But there's people at the tippity top of that section. So it's two sections, okay? You've got your Nancy Pelosi's, the good old boys, you scratch my back, I scratch your back type of politics, just good old fashioned corruption. Then you've got communism on this side, straight up communism, straight up globalism and selling America out because these people at the tippity top get rich. Now, in this section, you've got two divides, okay? You've got the useful idiots, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, and then at the tippity top, you've got your Governor J.B. Pritzkers, and a lot of Republicans even at this tippity top portion where they like to sell. I would say even I don't want to go as far as to say Nikki Haley, but there's been things about Nikki Haley where we've seen where she sells out China. And here on this side, you've got Nancy Pelosi, your Bernie Sanders, your Elizabeth Warrens, where they just, get the donors and they make themselves rich through that, okay? And they craft legislation that is favorable towards the lobbyists, okay? That's just your traditional corruption, that your Michael Madigan-esque corruption. So you've got two factions here. Now, 2028, Governor J.B. Pritzker, I really do think that he's going to be making a bid, and he's on this side, okay? He's on this far left side where he wants to sell out America to get rich to the globalists. And we're going to start to see this even more in the Democrat Party. I truly do believe that Canada is going to wind up siding with China as the world superpower. You're starting to see China tariff Canada. I didn't get to a whole lot of this, but there's tariffs on food, grapeseed oil, there's aquatic food. There's tariffs that China is imposing on Canada now. What China is trying to do is they're trying to traffic really their goods to avoid the tariff with the United States. They're going to try to traffic the goods through Canada to the U.S. And they want Canada to be on their side. Now, this is really insane because now you have Justin Trudeau stepping aside, and you have this new, what's his name, Mark Carney, who is just a straight up globalist communist, and he's pro China. And that's concerning if Pierre Poilievre doesn't get in with China, because China could abandon us as allies, and they're just going to side with China instead of the United States like they traditionally have, because they don't want to be fair in their trade with us. We've talked about the lumber, how they're subsidizing their lumber, and then they're dumping their subsidized crap into the United States. And that's a violation of our trade agreement. We've asked Canada, Donald Trump has asked Canada, hey, let's be fair about trade. Okay, let's operate with inside of our trade agreement here. Canada isn't a country. They aren't influential in any type of way. They're not a real country. Okay, the only reason why they exist and continue to exist is the United States. We've paid pretty much for their existence. Now, Donald Trump is so tactful in that he's trying to secure both these borders at the same time, Canada and Mexico. He got them both to secure their borders with their own money. America, we constantly get screwed. We're so alone in this because everybody just says, well, you have enough money. You have enough money. At the end of the day, a lot of these countries, they're going to side with a superpower. And some of these countries, I believe Canada, if that Mark Carney gets in, they're going to side with China. And this globalism thing is going to be take on a whole nother new meaning. And the Governor J.B. Pritzkers of the Democrat Party are going to be so emboldened by that. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat Out Cities 92.9. Yes, Van Jones. That was deeply unpopular with the American people, calling half of the Americans misogynist or racist or transphobic. But they doubled down on all of that. Okay, and they're still doubling down on all of that, and they're defending all of that still. And I think we're a long way away from the Democrat Party accepting that that is not a winning strategy. And they tried to replace the sleeping potato with somebody dumber than a rock, Kamala Harris, and that wasn't a good strategy. So I think the Dems are lost. There's divide in the Democrat Party. I've talked about that divide. You've got your globalist, and then you've got your good old boys. You scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of type politics, basic corruption. And then you've got, I want to sell out America. Now the Dems, they're grappling with who to pick as their leader, AOC or Jasmine Crockett. Now these guys are at the bottom of the totem pole. I really do think that the next leader of the Democrat Party, I don't know, he's just so dang unlikable. It's going to be hard for him, Governor J.B. Pritzker. There is this globalist faction within the Democrat Party. They want to sell America out. I think that Canada is going to wind up siding with this superpower, China. You've started to see China tariffing Canada, their food, grapeseed oil, a few other food items. And what Canada is trying to do is what China is trying to do with Canada, they want to avoid the American tariffs. And they're wanting to put their goods through Canada, export their goods to Canada, and then you go through the United States. It's very, very volatile in Canada right now because there's, of course, Justin Trudeau resigning, and then this Mark Carney guy stepping in. And this election is going to be so huge in, I believe it's October. Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney, I'd imagine he's going to be running. So the 2025 election is going to be so huge because that's going to determine who is Canada going to side with? Are they going to side with their best friends, America? And the only reason why we're best friends with Canada is because we've funded their existence for their entire like Canada is such a silly country. They have to side with a world superpower because they're not their own country. what Donald Trump is trying to do, he's saying enough is enough. We've been screwed by all of these countries. Canada, they violated all of their trade agreements with us, subsidizing their lumber, dumping it here. And they're violating their. We just want things to be fair. We don't want this friendship to be transactional where we have to pay for your existence. Otherwise, you're just going to go over to China. And this Mark Carney guy, he is probably going to go over with China and he's going to side with them as a world superpower, China. So you're going to start to see the globalism rise. Because the chips are going to start falling and we're going to find out who our friends are. And I really do think that the next leader of the Democrat Party is going to be a rabid globalist, somebody who is solely in politics to sell out America. So, yeah, this was really, really interesting to see this study come out in a Quinnipiac University survey conducted during Trump's first week in office. Only 31% of respondents had a favorable opinion of the Democrat Party. The left can defend their, calling half the country racist and misogynist all they want. But that's not a winning strategy. That is a losing campaign strategy, and they have yet to accept that. The only logical thing to do would be to analyze why it is that only 30% of people view the Democrat favorably, okay, and then change course. That's the only logical way you can go about this Democrat Party and change course. And there's no sign that they're going to be doing that. I do think that there is going to be a huge shift where we start to Jasmine Crockett, AOC. These are the socialist dummies, I like to say. They're useful idiots. But there's people at the top like your Governor J.B. Pritzker who constantly are selling out America. He's selling out Illinois as we speak, probably to Goshen, the CCP electric vehicle battery maker. And he does this all the time. BlackRock, right, where he gave them, we just talked about the Secure Choice program, the retirement program, gave them this sick deal where they're going to be the asset managers of the Secure Choice program. Why? Because BlackRock is a donor to the Tides Foundation, which is largely backed by George Soros and Governor J.B. Pritzker. So there's very smart people at the tippity top of the Socialist Party, and I think that is where they're really trying to go. It's just a matter of phasing out these good old boys, the Nancy Pelosi type, the Barack Obama types, and the Michael Madigan-esque type politics where you scratch my back, I scratch your back, and we all get rich. All right, well, I've got to go. But you guys have a blessed day. Maybe the Democrats will evaluate why only 30% of people view them favorably. Maybe they'll analyze as to why that is, and then they'll change direction. I'm not holding my breath, though. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. I love you. We'll be back tomorrow morning.